PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Okay, you can pick up where you left off.
Sorry?
Last week. You can pick up where you left off.
You lost me.
You know, where you were doing everything instead of Veterans Day. Thanksgiving.
Oh, right. Yeah, my list of stuff we have to do. Oh, my list of stuff we have to do. Oh, gosh. We have to go to the store. We have so much stuff to buy for preparing stuff for Thanksgiving.
Well, it's not that big. We got chips and dip and a cake or a pie or something. Big deal. We're good at both of those.
Yeah.
We got a lot of interesting stuff coming up this weekend. It's all going to be an informative week of movies and entertainment stuff. Right here, right now. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Like sands through the turkey dressing.
Yeah. What kind of turkey dressing are you making? This is Subject Cinema, and I'm going to go hurl.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
This town needs an enema.
Celebrating a decade of film podcasting. Lasting out of Beantown, USA, you're tuned into Subject Cinema with T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Directive.
Oh, behave. Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute.
Suppose you run your business and let me run mine. Here's looking at you, kid.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TC and Kim.
Seriously, what are you putting in your dressing if it's sandy?
I'm not making the dressing.
It sounds like you're putting Lorna Doones.
We're probably
in
not going to have dressing. You know, your sister and your mother don't usually make dressing. They usually make other things.
I like Lorna Doones. You just have to be a weirdo and not like them.
I don't even know what they are.
They're those cookies.
I know they're cookies.
Yeah. You're always complaining that they taste like they're made out of sand.
Oh, those shortbread things?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, they're delicious.
Ugh.
You don't know what you're talking about.
And we're wasting time, you know.
Yeah,
welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown. What do you mean we're wasting time? It's our damn show. We can talk about whatever the hell we want.
But people want to listen.
Well, yeah, we want them to listen.
Yeah.
That's true.
Subject Cinema number 545, November 20th, 2016. How's everybody out there? I hope you're doing good.
Yep.
We don't know. You never write to us. You never call. You never do anything anymore. And it's really simple. Just drop us a line, Subject Cinema at PNRNetworks.com, or head over to SpeakPipe and leave us a voice comment there. You might hear it on the show. How was your week?
Pretty okay, I guess. I think it was a pretty okay week. We did some cool stuff we're going to talk about this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just been a crazy week, and this week I got more medical tests. I tell you, I'm so sick of seeing the doctors this year.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the butt.
But
I
haven't had a lot of those tests, so that's a good thing. I mean,
what, pain in the butt tests?
Yeah.
No, I haven't had any of those.
Well, you did have a. Never mind.
Oh well, yeah, that was what I did back in the summertime.
Yeah, and you haven't
you
had.
ever
any...
drink that gallon that tastes like seawater? It's really disgusting.
And you haven't had
anyway.
Any... Well, you haven't had any needles in your hinder, so that's
No, I've only had a series of needles every week for like 6 weeks, drawing blood out of my arm.
Welcome to my world. At least
No, that's what I mean. I don't have a problem with it. They'd have to stick you 18 times before they could get a drop.
And I was going to say, at least they're not taking blood out of your hands like they have to do with me.
They could have done your toes.
And ouch. Damn it. Now I'm all cringy and goose pimply. That was nasty.
We have a current review. We've got a event cinema review. We've got a deja vu review this week for something that was on earlier this year because it's now running on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
We got a few other things. We got to look forward at a couple of things coming up, and all the usual stuff. Except Anthony. Anthony is still having problems with his system, and we miss having him on here. Anthony, hopefully you'll get it fixed out soon. Hopefully he'll be back in time for Christmas season.
Yeah.
He missed almost all of Thanksgiving season. And hopefully we'll hear from him soon. But right now, we're going to head to the 1920s New York in our time machine here as we take a look at the latest offering from Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling. Right here, it's time for the main screen.
Tonight's movie contains sights and sounds so impressive, you'll wonder why we didn't charge you admission. Candy and popcorn are available from our snack bar. As a courtesy to all in attendance today, please refrain from smoking or talking during our feature presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The movie is about to begin.
The main screen.
You've known for 24 hours that an unregistered wizard set magical beasts loose in New York? Yes. Where is this man?
So, you're the guy with the case full of monsters, huh?
Whose travels first?
Mr. Scamander, do you know anything about the wizarding community in America? We don't let things loose.
Hey, Mr. English guy, I think your egg is hatching.
You wiped his memory, right? The no magic.
What?
No magic. The non-wizard.
Sorry, we call them muggles.
I don't think I'm dreaming.
Oh, give it away.
I ain't got the brains to make this up.
Something is stalking our city. Wreaking destruction.
The scene, New York City. The year 1926, when a young British wizard sets foot in America, not realizing all the kind of hell he's going to open up, with the help of a few innocents here, and end up changing the way America looks at the wizarding world forever if he's not careful. Eddie Redmayne heads up an all-star cast in the first prequel to the Harry Potter novels written by Joanne J.K. Rowling herself, directed by David Yates. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Give us the rundown.
Okay. As TC mentioned, the year is 1926. The place is New York. On an ocean liner from Britain, Newt Scamander makes his way to America, carrying a suitcase that has some very interesting extra accoutrements with it, including a small switch that can be flipped so that its contents are viewable by muggles, or as it turns out, as they're called in this country, no-mages, which is another way to say you and me, norms, regular folk, non-magical people. People of that ilk can see socks and toiletries and all the things that would be in its regular suitcase. There are other things in this suitcase. Lots of other things. Amazing, beautiful, dangerous things that are also very much alive. Newt is should be a graduate of Hogwarts. He was actually expelled. He is a researcher and animal rights activist, for lack of a better term, of the magical beasts of the wizarding world. He has come to America on a very specific mission. He tells people that he's here for one thing when he's actually here for something else. While he's in New York, he witnesses a revival meeting of a hate group, because let's just call it what it is, a group led by a woman named Mary Lou Barebone, who runs the Second Salem Society. And for those of you who are from the New England area...
For those of you who don't have any idea what the first Salem would have been, you're living in a rock.
Yeah. For those of you from New England, when you hear that cold feeling starts in the pit of your stomach, these are people that are out there saying... Mary Lou's whole crusade is that there are witches in America and that they need to be eradicated. Because the world needs another effing zealot.
Especially in the 1920s.
Yeah. Also at this meeting is also following Newt, and at this meeting and watching Mary Lou with definite disdain is a woman named Tina who is a magical person as well. She is a witch. She winds up getting dragged into Newt's life when one of the magical creatures in Newt's suitcase, a magical being called a Niffler, gets out. Nifflers are kind of, they're kind of cute, I guess. But they also have an odd quirk. Nifflers are attracted to shiny things, like birds are. Nifflers are a lot more aggressive about going after said shiny things than birds are, however. And the problem is all of this is going on in front of a bank, which happens to be full of shiny things. The Niffler gets into the bank and starts pilfering stuff and sticking it in its pouch of infinite capacity. Newt has to go after the Niffler, winds up entangling a no-mage named Jacob Kowalski in his adventures, and Jacob winds up finding out about the wizarding world, much to the anger of other members of the wizarding world, especially an auror or a magical police officer named Percival Graves, who has been charged with keeping the wizarding world away from the no-mage world. And Mr. Graves has his own agenda, meeting with Credence, the adopted son of Mary Lou, who has something very dark going on in his life, besides the fact that his mother is a psycho bitch from hell. I'm sorry, was that being too harsh? Tough.
No.
And there is something prowling the streets of New York. Something destructive, something dangerous, something that seems wild and out of control and could tear down the very iffy fabric between the magical and normal world. And if that happens, there could be war.
What kind of war? That's what you have to question. With Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander, Ezra Miller as Credence, Catherine Waterston as Tina, Colin Farrell as Officer Graves, Ron Perlman as Narlac, Samantha Morton as Mary Lou, John Voight as the Shaw Sr., the father of Senator Shaw, who plays a role in the film, Dan Fogler as Jacob Kowalski, Allison Sudol as Queenie, and Carmen Ejago, I think it's pronounced, as the president, basically, of the magical world in America, plus appearances by a lot of other people. So, what'd you think?
I thought this movie was terrific. I think that it's a hell of a ride into the Harry Potter universe. I think that it's really cool because for the longest time, when the story of Harry and the wizarding world in England took the world by storm because of J.K. Rowling's books, naturally people in other countries started to speculate, well, are there wizards in my country? What would wizards be like in my country? Would there be a school like Hogwarts in my country? We find out during this movie there is a school for witches and wizards in America called Ilvermorny.
It's probably not the only one.
It's probably not the only one, but it's considered the most premier.
It's the Hogwarts of America.
It's like, well, yeah, or the Harvard of witchery schools in America, whichever. Unfortunately, we also find out that during this time period in America, the same backward, stupid, prejudicial rules that were plaguing the no-maj world about marriage between people that are different was also going on in the magical world. Wizards weren't allowed to be friends with no-mages. It was against the law for no-mages to marry wizards. You know,
a lot of the same stuff was probably going on in England too, but they just haven't mentioned it that much.
Well, we know it wasn't going on later in England because I don't know if it was Dean. No, it was Seamus. Seamus Finnegan brought up the fact that his mom was a witch and his father was a muggle.
Okay.
But anyway, and of course in America, in the no-maj America, they had the same stupid rules about, that black people couldn't marry white people and stupid prejudicial racist crap like that. This film is so entertaining and so much fun. And I think one of the things that makes it so much fun is the actors. The actors make it, for me, a lot of the times in a film. And I think that the exuberance of an actor and how much they throw themselves into a role, for me, makes the film that much more enjoyable, sometimes even more than the plot. And for me, watching the actors in this film was a complete joy. Eddie Redmayne's portrayal of Newt Scamander is really, really interesting because of something that you brought up and something our friend Stacy brought up.
Okay.
Stacy compared, and I don't know if you heard her make this comparison because you didn't say anything, so I was assuming you didn't hear her. Stacy compared Newt to the late crocodile hunter Steve Irwin. And
that's a good comparison.
I think that's an excellent comparison. Steve Irwin was a great believer in animal conservation, that animals should be protected, and Newt is the same way. And he's willing,
he has the same kind of personality. Newt has what you might get if you cross Steve Irwin with Jack Hanna, which is terrifying.
The fact that he's willing to put his life on the line for his magical creatures is really beautiful and really moving, and there is a very strong comparison to somebody like Steve Irwin, who would put himself in dangerous situations for the animals that he loved. And I think that you see that a lot in Newt. You brought up something really interesting about Eddie's performance that I thought was really telling. I noticed it too, and I think that you bring up a really valid point. Mm-hmm. You want to expound on that?
He doesn't look you in the eye. He's always looking off to, he's like, it's almost like he's afraid to look anybody in the eye.
Yeah.
And I assume it's because you don't look animals in the eye because they feel sometimes some animals take that as aggression.
Yeah.
And he's dealing with a lot of very large, very powerful creatures.
He's dealing with a lot of wild animals, and that's one of the things that they say with people that deal with wild animals. You don't look them in the eye because, especially males, they view it as an aggressive thing, and then they'll get all puffed up and they might charge at you, and that would obviously be a bad thing if you're dealing with, a rhinoceros or something like that. And I think Newt has been around these creatures so much and for so long, and it's been taken up so much of his life that he doesn't really know how to interact with humans. When he does look somebody in the eye, it's because he trusts them. And I think that you see that with Jacob, you see that with Tina, and I think eventually, you're right, eventually, because trust isn't something that's just bang done like that. It has to be worked for. Trust has to be earned, and I think that really shows in their performance. I think it was a great character quirk that I don't know if they wrote into the script or if that was Mr. Redmayne's choice as an acting
well,
choice.
It makes sense, and it might have been something that he and J.K. came up with together, since he was in on the casting of most of this film.
Yeah,
so
and I think it's great. I also want to bring up Dan Fogler, who plays Jacob Kowalski, the nomad that's thrown into this lunacy. I loved his performance. Absolutely loved it. I thought he was fantastic. The end of this movie, if the end of this movie does not make you well up because of him, there's something wrong with you. Because not the tail end, although that almost made me cry too.
Well, it's connected.
Yeah, the end of this movie, he just really carries it, and it's really, he doesn't say a word, and it's so perfect. The special effects in this kick ass. There's so many creatures in this that we have never seen before. We've heard about them in the Harry Potter universe. They've been mentioned in the books, but this is the first time we've seen some of these creatures. And I know for some people, they've imagined these creatures for years and what they looked like. And for some people, maybe it was like, wow, that's just what I thought they looked like, or, oh, that's not quite what I thought they'd look like. But either way, they look so real, and you really believe they're alive. And it's, oh my gosh, it just completely blew my mind. I think the characters are compelling. I think the thing that I think is so cool is that there's lines in the plot, and there's lines in the story that reach out and connect to the things that we already know about the Harry Potter universe. Things that reach out from the past to connect to the stuff that we already know about Harry's life and the wizarding world that Harry grew up in.
A lot of that is surrounding Grindelwald.
Yes, Gellert Grindelwald, who is at the time the darkest dark wizard and responsible for a complete reign of terror going on in the 20s.
Right. Obviously, Voldemort has not yet appeared. So
No.
That'll be a couple decades down the road.
I think it's a great addition to the Harry Potter universe. I think that it's a film that if you call yourself a Potter fan, you should definitely see. I think Potter fans will go see it more than once because there's so much to see. You can't get it all in one shot.
Yeah, that's going to be the big selling point for this film. I think that I'm going to be honest. It's not a perfect film. There's a couple of things I have a big problem with, but other than that, I think that it is a magical film. Pardon the pun, because the cast is so stupendously good. The story is so well written, and there's going to be. We'll talk about this more in freeze frame, but there's more. There's a lot of stuff that can happen here because it's so chock full of stuff. Let me call out a few people. Number one, Eddie Redmayne. He is a Academy Award winner now for The Theory of Everything, and he's involved in every different types of different stuff. Here, as Newt, he gives a really stupendous performance, and it's so low key in many ways that it has to be because of what we were talking about a minute ago, where the whole don't make eye contact, don't trust anybody else. They're obviously very untrusting. British wizards are untrusting of American wizards, which I think is an interesting parallel that they'll be exploring at some point in the future. Ezra Miller in perhaps the worst haircut of the century.
I still think that goes to Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element. I do.
Well, that's not this century.
Yeah.
Is it
no, that's
now?
a good point. That's my bad.
Ezra always looks better with his hair longer, but he's terrific here as he always is. Also, didn't mention her in the cast, but Faith Wood Blagrove, who plays Modesty, his adopted sister, is also really good. But the two people that shine here more than anything for me are Dan Fogler, who plays wonderfully Jacob Kowalski, the aspiring baker who runs into Newt at the bank while he's looking for a loan and ends up witnessing stuff he probably shouldn't see as a nomad. And the other person that blew my mind is Alison Sudol. I don't know Allison at all. She plays Tina's sister, Queenie, and she is the heart and soul of this film.
Yeah.
I love this character, and I hope we get to see Jacob and Queenie again in the future installments that will be coming.
But I totally agree with you. Besides being drop-dead gorgeous, she's just so nice.
I have two big complaints about the film, and they're not enough to detract majorly from my score, or to detract from my enjoyment for the most part. Number one, Newt's case. I didn't realize Newt was from Gallifrey. Now, let's just leave it at that. I'm not going to go any further with that, but I have a feeling the BBC might have a few complaints about what's done with that case in this film.
It's not a new concept.
It's not a new concept, but they didn't, I mean, really? It's a bit, I mean, okay, fine. Then Warner Brothers will go after him for doing their version of Wacko's Gaddy Bag. Then, fine, same thing. But it's still, I felt that felt to me a little ripped off. The other thing, it's way too long. They could have gotten this in and cut 30 minutes out of this film without any problem or losing any of the magic of this story. There's some of the stuff that is just stretched out way farther than it needs to be. And I mean, just because the Harry Potter films each clocked in between 2.5 and 3 hours, especially the latter ones, does not mean you need to do that with these. Keep them under 2 hours or right at 2 hours, because they're really just stretching the time and stretching the amount of, and that's going to work against it in the long run, because it means 2 or 3 fewer schedulings during the weekend when it's that long at most cinemas. I mean, it wasn't the whole senator thing should have been. There was no need for that storyline at all. They didn't need that part of it. They didn't need any of that at all. And it's just like they could have excised the whole thing and made it a lot tighter film. Because Tina was already familiar with them. They did not need all the other additions to it. Colin Farrell is continuing to surprise me. I did not like him for the longest time when he first got started, but it started with Fright Night and continued in Bruges and or maybe vice versa on those two, and then especially in Winter's Tale. In Winter's Tale, every time I see him, I like him more and more. He's just getting really good. And here, as what's the title they use for that for his
he's
office?
An Auror.
For as Graves, he's really good, and I like what he does with the character. It's how I would see something like this working, except for there's a little bit of hanky-panky going on that you don't realize right away. I'm not going to give you any more about that right now. Special effects, top-notch. Let me find it real quick because I didn't look it up. Let me go all the way. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. There it is. James Newton Howard's score, fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. I love the score from this film. The end themes are amazing, and the CGI work on the animals is just incredible. I mean, it really just is. They all look. Most of them look 100% real. There's a couple of them that don't look especially real, but it's because the design is so huge. We're just not used to thinking of it as real, and I don't know if that would work or not. But overall,
see, that never bothered. It didn't bother me at all. Maybe
it didn't bother me. I just thought that doesn't look as real as some of the other ones did.
I want a bow truckle.
Oh, the bow truckles are adorable. They're
one.
baby Groots, basically.
The bow truckle. No, you and Stacy with the Groot thing.
They're trees. They're part of a tree.
I think it looks like what would happen if a stalk of asparagus and a stick insect had a baby. That's it's.
Asparasticks. Yeah.
Asparastick.
They're really great, and Eddie and everybody does a great job interacting with the CGI without even, it's seamless.
It is, absolutely.
Joanne has written a top-notch story here, and it's a very welcome part of the Harry Potter overall Potterverse. Mm-hmm. What's your score?
I give it an A.
I give it an A-. I think it's too long, and I think there's a couple of things that feel like they got a little bit ripped off of other things, but not everything can be original. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is now showing everywhere. It's the first of 5 of these films we found out a couple weeks ago, so be ready for more in the future. It is now playing everywhere.
No film is too good or too bad for us. This is Subject Cinema.
In a world where podcasts already seem to address every imaginable subject, one man broke new ground with a seemingly random obsession about exploding helicopters in movies. He was a podcaster on the edge, a maverick broadcaster who played by his own rules. Now, he has a last chance to talk about the strange way helicopters explode in film. Exploding Helicopter, available on iTunes and Podomatic now. Think you know about chopper fireballs? Think again.
Subject Cinema!
So, now we've got a second Harry Potter franchise out there.
Yep.
What do you... This was a great film. You heard our review. We both loved it. We'll probably go see it again. It was really great. And it's the kind of movie that you're going to see new things in at least the first 10 times you go to see it. Mm-hmm. The performances were fantastic. What I'm wondering, though, is can they sustain 5 movies based on this universe?
Well,
some people are actually wondering whether they should try to do more than 3, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I like the characters, and I think there's plenty of room in the Potterverse for this group of people, and the more they do it, the more they can steep anything else they do with the Harry Potter group later on. Because, I mean, there's rumblings that there's going to be one of the films is going to actually involve young Dumbledore, which will be interesting. But I'm like, okay, I'm not sure where to go for that.
Well, my attitude is the simple fact that when you create a universe, whether you do it in writing or, writing a book, making a comic, making a TV show, making a movie, the sky's the limit. Once you get
Not
that...
always. I don't agree with that, but go ahead and finish your thought.
Well, once you get that started, once you have that, for lack of a better term, Big Bang that creates the core.
No, please. I don't want Sheldon anywhere near here. Please, no. I can't deal.
Well, I didn't want to use Genesis because I didn't want to alienate any non-Christians out there. When you have that moment of creation, you have that pop that creates your core.
Okay.
Then you have so much you have written a sentence on a blank page. Now, where you go from that point on is completely up to you. Mm-hmm. You can stay in the present with that storyline.
Right.
You can go into the future with where other people... You can expand the universe into the future. You can look back into the past to see how we got to the point where things started in the present.
Right. Okay, you can do that with Star Trek and Star Wars and science fiction stuff, but you can't do that with the Harry Potter universe because there is a definitive wall coming up with the Harry Potter stories themselves. You know that you have to have stuff that early 50 years, but you're not going to go past Sorcerer's Stone / Philosopher's Stone because that's where the whole franchise's roots are.
Right. You have to be able... Well, you have to... If you explore things in the past with established characters that were established in the core...
Right, like they are with this film.
Yeah,
there. Exactly.
If you look at the past with established characters from the core, you have to follow a certain...
Right.
This has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen, because we know at the core that this happened. Why are you laughing at me?
We don't have cameras in here. You should see her. She's like giving every kind of hand signal she can, talking about what she's talking about.
I'm a Sagittarius. We talk with our hands.
Sorry. I'm just not making fun.
Don't judge me. But the thing is, when you talk about, and when you expand the universe from the core, when you expand outward and you go to the past,
right?
If you go to the past and have all new characters in the past, if they don't have any interaction with the characters in the present, you can go absolutely nuts.
Okay, well,
so
no, that's also not true. If you're going back to the past, you eventually have to end up where you started.
Not necessarily.
Then you're going to risk changing the entire canon of the series.
But my point is still, if you're dealing with a character in the past that has never been mentioned in the present, maybe that's because the character died 5 years before the core story started.
Okay,
or something
all right.
like that.
Let's use the Star Trek universe for a minute, because everything in life revolves back to Star Trek.
Hooray!
You can't make an argument that you can bring back anything in the past and not risk canon when you screw up as badly as Rick Berman did with Enterprise. Enterprise was this prequel series that was supposed to be the first ever big exploration. They had the first Vulcan on board. I never watched it. My pal Eric Lyon loved the show. I couldn't stand it. I'm not a big Scott Bakula fan, so I stayed away from it. And it's like, they made 2 huge errors on that show that the fans called them out for, and now, as a result, most fans detach Enterprise from the rest of the canon because they introduced the Tholians and the Borg before any time they were supposed to be known.
That's true. That is true.
The Tholians were not even heard of until the Tholian Web episode of the original series.
Wait a minute. Is that accurate?
Yes. That's one of my favorite episodes, and they said right in, Kirkham and those guys had no idea who the Tholians were.
Okay. I thought they had been heard of, but they hadn't been contacted.
Not as far as I know.
Okay. All right.
But that would put the Tholian contact 70 years before it was supposed to happen.
Right.
And then Berman also brought the Borg in, too. So it's like, no, the Borg can be explained away just by pointing to... Well, actually, no, because right now, and I'm risking going off topic here, but I have to. Most Star Trek fans recognize unofficially, it's never been mentioned as part of the official canon, that the Borg started at the end of Star Trek, the motion picture, when Ilea and Decker became one person or one entity. A lot of fans consider that the birth of the Borg. Because a lot of
fans speculate.
But they consider it personally. They consider that the beginning of the Borg, because they speculate that the planet that Ilea is from, which is all machines and logic, and they were able to be thinking machines, is what created the Borg. It's never been official as part of the canon.
No.
So you screwed up if you accept the earlier stuff that Berman did. It still can't jive with the rest of the canon. With the Harry Potter stuff, you've got to be in that same careful window. If you mess up and introduce a character before they're supposed to be there, there's no louder fans on the planet than Potterheads, and they're going to go after you. And it could sink the franchise if they do something stupid.
That's true. No, that is... You're quite right. Of course,
just like Twilight. Twilight is a closed universe. It begins and ends at a specific time. So you really don't have any leeway except to explore Bella's pre-Edward obsession and the after the battle scene in there. But you can't put anything between it because it's all in one thing.
But the thing is, they did. Stephanie Meyer wrote a book, or a novella or something, about that. I can't think of it. Her name is Bree something. That was a character, a very minor character that was turned and then later killed because it was. I think it was in Breaking Dawn.
I don't know what the character is, so I honestly, in Breaking Dawn, I don't remember other than pointing and laughing most of it.
Yeah. Well. Not Breaking Dawn. Oh crud. Eclipse. Yeah. Eclipse, okay. the third one.
That makes more sense, yeah.
the girl that was turned, and then they wound up having to kill her because she was a member of the group of people that Victoria had turned,
right?
And they felt that she was too dangerous to be kept alive, and I think the Volturi killed her,
right?
But that was because people were like, "Oh wow, what happened with this character? She seems so interesting." They wrote she wrote a whole other book,
right? But it was inside the inside the canon.
But the thing is, if Stephanie Meyer, and please, for the love of all that's decent, don't do this, decided to write another book about 10 years down the road when Edward and Bella's incredibly stupidly named daughter Renesmee is a young woman, that would be a continuation of the franchise. They could do that. If she wanted to write a book about going back to when Edward was turned by Carlisle, she could do that.
Right, but I'm saying that you've got to be careful.
So it's not a closed universe.
It is a closed universe within the universe that she currently has, because it has a distinct beginning and a distinct ending. They really, you can go earlier or later, but you can't get into the canon unless you write within that time frame. It doesn't give you a whole broad area. Mainly because unless they want to explore, like this new Krypton series is going to do for the Sci-Fi Channel, the generations, like 6 generations before Jor-El was even born.
Right.
They're going to have to go way back and then be really careful, because the further back you go, the more deadly the butterfly effect becomes.
Right. But obviously sometimes... Now, you mentioned that, Potterheads will scream and yell if something is not right canon-wise. And you're correct. Star Trek fans will scream and yell if something is not right canon-wise. But, of course, since the 2009 Star Trek movie created an alternate universe, that kind of throws all that stuff out the window.
No, it just created an alternate timeline.
But anyway...
There's TOS timeline and Abrams timeline. Same universe.
Boy. But apparently sometimes you can screw around with this stuff and not have people scream as loudly as you think they're going to, maybe because certain fans are more used to that sort of thing than other fans. Case in point, Gotham. Gotham is a terrific show.
Gotham also is not set within the Batman universe, so it's like...
But it is.
It's an alternative.
It's an alternative It's an alternate look at that universe.
But so it cannot ever be part of Batman canon. No. Unless they do a reboot in the comic books.
And it's never gonna be, he's not gonna grow up and be the Batman of the Nolan verse or the Batman of the whatever they're gonna call
Batfleck. Just
fine.
leave it at Batfleck. It's fine.
But that show has taken those characters and that backstory and completely, cherry picked and chosen things and completely changed stuff around. And for the most part, most Bat fans seem to be like, okay.
Yeah.
It's your take. Show. It's your take on this. We'll just watch it.
But you know what the big difference is? Mm-hmm. Comics versus novels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, that's the thing.
Comic book fans are used to reboots.
That's where I'm going. Comic book fans have to deal with the fact that, every couple of years...
You can't reboot a novel unless you're Stephanie Meyer.
Yes, thank you for that.
Sorry, Steph.
No, we're not.
I am.
But
I just don't want them to make a movie out of the gender flip, please.
Please
God.
No. Oh, no.
We can't deal with that, please.
I can't. No, not that. Anything but that. But, comic book fans over the last couple of, since the 70s,
in a major way, yeah, since the late 70s, early 80s, when they first started redoing with these massive reboots at DC and Marvel, yeah.
Yeah. In my opinion, I point the finger more at DC because Crisis on Infinite Earths just effed everything up. And
yet somebody pointed out that it's still a part of the very same universe that DC's always done, where Marvel has actually rewritten the entire universe several times.
Yeah.
DC has never lost their continuity because of the way they do things.
No, and
which
Marvel,
I think is interesting.
And Marvel, for a while, I love Marvel, don't get me wrong, and you guys do great movies, but gosh darn it, sometimes, honest to blog, you make things confusing. There's the regular universe, and then there was the ultimate universe, and this universe, and
the
that
Howard the Duck universe.
And it's like...
Anyway.
It's like, honest to frog, will you just pick one place and stick with it?
Just real quick before we get off here, I want to point out something here. Starting a franchise is not an easy thing, but if you do, and this is a start of a franchise, which it's a separate franchise within the Potterverse, the way they have it envisioned. You have 3 major players already involved with it, and one of those is already in another franchise. So you have Eddie Redmayne, who is coming into this knowing he's now going to be a massive part of the Potterverse. You have Colin Farrell, who has not yet dipped his finger into a major franchise, although he did play the bad guy in the Daredevil film.
He was Bullseye in the first Daredevil movie.
And you have Ezra Miller, who was previously the indie guy, who is now a part of the DC verse as the Flash.
Yay.
As of, in his own movie, as of 2 years away, but it's still in Justice League and cameos already.
Yep.
Is there, are people going, like you and I do, it's like, oh, they're part of this franchise and that franchise. Are we going to play 6 Degrees of franchise with half of the people that show up in this movie now?
It was really sad because I was sitting there watching...
and Stacey did the whole Kevin Bacon thing afterward with several people. It's like,
it was really bad, though, because I was sitting there when we're watching Fantastic Beasts and going, they were in a comic book movie, they were in a comic book movie, they were in a comic book movie. It's... I'm like sitting here going, you are such an effing geek. Stop it!
What do you guys think of the new franchise, and what do you think they need to do to really make it click? We want to know. SubjectCinema@PNRNetworks.com. Please write in and let us know.
Subject Cinema.
Festival Flash! This is always a really busy week for movie people, and I'll tell you why. It's Thanksgiving week, but it's also, we are now within a 10-day window. We are positive that the Spirit nominations come out this week, and I will talk about that on Red Carpet Monitor. But we will, this is where we start speculating, because Sundance is about to announce. Sundance has announced up to 3 days before Thanksgiving and up to a week after. So we don't know when for sure the announcement will be made. They haven't put anything up on their website yet, and we don't know what's going there. However, IndieWire's writers, in their infinite wisdom a couple weeks ago, posted their Sundance wish list based on some of the films that have been getting made over the last year or so. And I'm looking at these, and I'm like, some of these I've never heard of, but a lot of them are a good bet to make it to Sundance. And I think it's interesting that there are some titles that I actually am familiar with. One of which is a movie that a lot of people have been talking about because of the people in it. It's called The Book of Henry. This is the new film from Colin Trevorrow, the director of Jurassic World. He was actually going to make this before Jurassic World, but didn't have a chance to. It's Lee Pace, Naomi Watts, Jacob Tremblay, single mother raising 2 boys, one of whom is a genius. It sounds like a slightly lighter version of Midnight Special, although the kid is a genius and not superpowered. But, it's got a good cast, and it was originally slated to come out this year, so it hasn't premiered yet. It is finished. There is the new film from director of Waltz with Bashir, Ari Folman. He has done an animated version of The Diary of Anne Frank, which is everybody has been really just whispering about for a while. His last film did not do that well, The Congress, which I liked. You didn't care for.
No.
I liked it primarily because I enjoy the performances in the live action part. The animation was beautiful, but it was so confusing in places and overly long.
The animation was beautiful.
The story was incredibly depressing.
The plot made me want to lock myself in the bathroom with an entire cheesecake and a bottle of vodka.
And it was based on a classic book, so that had a lot to do with it. Another one that's getting a lot of buzz is Golden Exits. It's not even sure if it's going to be ready for Sundance. This is a new film shot earlier this year at Rye. This is how it's described by IndieWire. I don't know who wrote this one, D.E., so I'm not sure which one of the writers that is. A Rye adultery drama about a foreign lass, played by Emily Browning, whose summer trip to the U.S. causes major waves in two Brooklyn families. It has Lily Robb, Emily Browning, Chloe Sevigny, Annalie Tipton, Jason Schwartzman. It's got a cast that is Sundance regulars, pretty much, in the various things. Another interesting one is a film that I have been talking about for months, and since it didn't premiere at Toronto or New York, I'm thinking Sundance will be the touchdown point for the masterpiece, James Franco's new movie about the making of Tommy Wiseau's The Room.
Well, it's got to come out sometime.
Kate Erblend, who writes a great column about new acquisitions and stuff, I don't always agree with her film opinions, thinks that this is a great venue for it, and I do too. She's like, the film promises to be just as ludicrously entertaining as Wiseau's cult classic, while shedding some light on the eternal question, hey, how the hell did this happen? Speaking of The Room.
Yeah.
It has a cast to die for.
We've seen it, and I've thought that more than once.
More than once we've seen it, too.
Yeah. Actually, every time we see it, I think, how the hell did this happen?
The cast, though, the cast is... Everybody is in this cast. James Franco, his brother Dave, plays Greg Sestero, who is Mark in the movie. Josh Hutcherson is Denny's and Philip Haldeman. Jackie Weaver is playing Claudette. The woman that plays Claudette and Claudette.
Seth Rogen is one of
Ari Grainer plays Lisa and the lady that played her. Seth Rogen is in it. Bryan Cranston is in it. It's got a huge cast. And it will be a monster hit when it comes out, regardless of whether the critics like it or not, because anybody that loves The Room is going to check this film out. And surprisingly, there are a lot of people that truly love The Room, although not in the way Tommy Wiseau would hope they would. Yeah. The other one that has got my interest is one of the final films from Anton Yelchin, and it's called Thoroughbred. This is taking him back to playing a teenager after playing an adult for a number of years, which is really going to be scary. Well, actually, he's the adult in this relationship. It's about two teenage girls in suburban Connecticut who, after rekindling their friendship, learn that neither is what they seem to be and that a murder might solve both their problems. It's a kind of a teenage version of Strangers on a Train. With Anton is one of them. Olivia Cook from Me and Earl and the Dying Girl is in it. Anna Taylor-Joy, and directed by Corey Finley, who I'm not familiar with. He's a playwright turned filmmaker. But that had some good word of mouth before Anton's tragic death earlier this year. So I'm going to be interested in seeing what happens. Sundance will announce probably... I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to predict that they announce on November 30th. That's a Wednesday. They have a traditional Wednesday or Thursday is usually the traditional day they announce on. So I don't think we'll see it the day before Thanksgiving. I think we'll see it a week from this Wednesday. When it does happen, we'll have all the major titles for you and what is definitely coming, because the premiere films, the ones that are going to be in competition, are always the first ones to be announced, and we'll see what happens. But I have a feeling it's going to be a banner year at Sundance this year.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
His movies.
Way to go, Charlie.
I think it rips through your clothes when it takes you over.
More human than human is our motto.
He tasks me, and I shall have him.
Her movies.
The hills are alive.
You're so jealous you can hardly breathe.
The rum!
Yes, the rum is gone.
Why is the rum gone?
Suddenly my life doesn't seem such a waste.
Fuzzy Fur movies. The Cavebabble Podcast. We babble about the movies you love.
And probably a few that you love to hate.
Find out more at Cavebabble.com. Also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and by Smoke Signal. C-A-V-E. Babble. Cavebabble.com. Movies for him, her, and you.
If you're looking for great films, well, that's okay. You'll like us anyway. Subject Cinema.
For those of you who don't know yet, you've been living under a rock. It's awards season this Tuesday. Day and date as we do this show, although if you listen after Tuesday, it'll obviously have already happened. The 2017 Film Independent Spirit Award nominations will be announced. And I'm thinking, we've seen a lot of indies this year. There's been a lot of we haven't had a chance to check out yet that we're trying to get in between now and the end of the year. I have to be honest, the Spirit Awards used to be incredibly independent. And over the last 3 or 4 years, they've tended to mirror Oscar. And I don't know why that is or why it happened, because a lot of stuff Oscar's nominating now falls into that budgetary area that actually qualifies for the
you
Spirits.
could almost kind of say maybe... Could you take the attitude that Oscar is getting more independence instead of independence is getting more Oscar?
I don't know. Maybe. I suppose it is possible. But the nice thing about the Spirit Awards is that there's always one surprise or two.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this year's surprise is for Theo Taplitz. I'm not making any hidden agendas there. I have been pushing Theo Taplitz since we saw Little Men earlier this year. He was our #1 male rising star this year, and I'm really hoping the Spirits will give him the lead actor nomination he deserves for this film, although he may get shuffled into the supporting category. Because I noticed, interestingly enough, the ads up on Amazon for the video release in December have everybody in the cast listed as starring and supporting Theo Taplitz. He's the only one listed as supporting. And I'm like, that makes no sense since he is the lead in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, honest to God, this film deserves something. And it's more likely actually to get a writing or a directing or an editing award nomination from Spirits. Ira Sachs is a favorite at the Spirit Awards. Keep the Lights On and Love is Strange both did well with the Spirits, and it's going to be. I'm hoping something will come for Little Men because I'm really thinking it doesn't have a big shot at Oscars and it deserves it. It's a great film. The same can be said. That the Spirits might be the only hope Michel Gondry has this year. Michel, a longtime favorite of the Spirit Awards. They have been good to him from the time Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind came out this year. Microbe and Gasoline, one of his best reviewed films ever. Very small release in America, and it deserved better than it got. And we again, the two leads in that film were also on the Rising Stars list this year, Théophile Becquet and Ange Dargent, and they were both really excellent. Hoping to see something for that. I'd like to see something for The Wave also. The Wave technically was eligible last year, but it came out here in America this year. It was Norway's entry into the Academy Award earlier last year, and it didn't make the final cut for foreign language film, but it was a great film. I'm not sure if its budget was small enough, though, because it was a major league disaster film, and they had a lot of special effects, so it may not be. You have to be $20 million or below to make the cut at the Spirit nominations.
Well, considering your average disaster movie goes way beyond that price
but
tag
there's only
all the bells
the thing
and
about
whistles.
this movie is there's only one major sequence in the film where all of this is, so it may not have cost as much as it looked.
That's true. But if it looked that realistic, it may not have come cheap.
It looks phenomenally good,
so.
and that's like.
But
wow.
I hope it makes it because you like that movie so much.
Can you think of any indies that you really liked this year that you'd like to see get some attention?
I would love to see Little Men get attention because although the ending pissed me off, I will be the first to admit that it's a great film for the two young leads. I'm sorry, they're the leads.
Yeah, don't forget about Michael Barbieri, too, who's next going to be seen in The Dark Tower with Matthew McConaughey.
I thought Microbe and Gasoline was terrific.
Again, except for the ending.
Again,
they both have little tiny problems with the ending.
Although the ending of Microbe and Gasoline did not make me want to throw up my hands and
I didn't have a problem.
Room,
I didn't have a problem with the ending of Little Men the way you did. So,
I would love to see. Does the Spirit give stuff for documentaries too?
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
I would love to see it give something for some of the documentaries that we've seen.
There have been a ton of good docs this year. We've seen Nuts was fantastic, and the ones that would qualify. I don't know whether I imagine 0 Days will probably get something. Alex Gibney's documentary. What other ones?
I'd love to see Missing Persons, which I don't
know
if
Missing
Person
did not get a distributor, but that does not mean it's not eligible for Spirit.
No, because that movie was so compelling and just sucked you. Missing People.
Missing People. Sorry.
Missing People sucked you. So sorry about that. That sucked you in so much and held your attention for the entire movie. And
Sunita, which is getting attention from the Cinema Eye honors, which is the Doc Awards, the major Doc Awards. It still hasn't come out. It was supposed to come out this month, but I haven't seen it on the list.
No.
And
Sunita,
that one is an amazing documentary.
I know you didn't like it as much as I did, but I would love to see Driving with Selby get some love.
It has love within the community, but it hasn't found a full distributor yet, so I don't know what's happening.
I don't know. That's pretty much all I can
Spirits
think
can do
of.
that, though. They do take unreleased films because they have been nominated in the past. We'll have the full rundown of the Spirit nominations on Tuesday when they happen. We'll have it posted on eCinemaOne sometime on Tuesday afternoon, and you can probably come over and see me rally or rail about what did or didn't get nominated and the nominations over at eCinemaOne.com later this week.
All movies, all the time. Subject Cinema.
We got a brand new segment here on Subject Cinema this week. It's entertainment-oriented legal stuff. And we call it Disorder in the Court, and we got a couple of different goofy things going on in the court system that definitely deserve your attention. Now, most of the time, these are ridiculous lawsuits, and both of these are trademark lawsuits, and they're like, what in the hell?
Now, we have to say up front, the American court system has to deal with a lot of stupid stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people bringing up lawsuits for some of the most ridiculous reasons ever. And when they get into entertainment areas, somehow, for some reason, things get especially ludicrous. The first story that we're going to talk about is the Dr. Seuss Foundation. I don't know how else you... The
Dr. Seuss Company, I think it's
the
called.
Dr. Seuss Company.
Because Dr. Seuss Enterprises.
Dr. Seuss Enterprises, who are, because the gentleman who actually was Dr. Seuss has long since left this plane of existence.
And he was a satirist, so I don't think he would have had a problem with this.
I don't either. A
group of small artists put together a parody of Dr. Seuss's classic book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, a few months ago, and they started their own project called, it was a Kickstarter project called Oh, the Places You'll Boldly Go, which was a mashup of Dr. Seuss and Star Trek characters. Now, Star Trek, in itself, one of the most litigious properties ever, until last year when they basically got shamed out of court by J.J. Abrams and Justin Lin.
Well, is that Star Trek or Paramount?
That's CBS Paramount, but they own the Star Trek stuff. This project, Oh, the Places You'll Go, Oh, the Places You'll Boldly Go, or whatever it is, clearly is a fair use parody and protected under parody laws.
Right.
Seuss went after them anyway. The group actually Kickstarter. The Seuss went to Kickstarter. Kickstarter killed the funding campaign, and the parodies. The parody people did threaten counterclaim and then filed a counter notice with Kickstarter to get reinstated. So They may still get reinstated, but Dr. Seuss Enterprises has now filed lawsuit. And it is, you can look at it, and they admit right in the project that it is a parody of the book. And the artwork, which you can see in the show notes, we'll have a link to the story. It's crazy.
Actually, the artwork is hysterical. This lawsuit is crazy.
Yeah, that's true too. The writers, the lawsuit is even using the fact that they've admitted that it's a copy, because it is a copy.
Because it's a parody, which is allowed.
While we firmly believe that our parody, created with love and affection, fully falls within the boundary of fair use, there may be some people who believe this might be in violation of their intellectual property rights, and we may have to spend time and money proving it to people in black robes, and we may even lose that. This is actually on their Kickstarter page.
Mm-hmm. Because you can tell from their tone, they think this is as frigging stupid as we do.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see where that comes out. Now, the other one is a straight trademark thing. And if you've ever followed trademark lawsuits, they can get downright stupid. Case in point, this week, the Toronto Maple Leafs filed a lawsuit for infringement of their trademark against Snoop Dogg. Now, how is this this is crazy. Most of the time you see these trademark things are big corporations going after a little entrepreneur, and
right.
It's ridiculous.
Like if
they don't have the money or the time or the effort or the knowledge to fight back a lot of times.
Like if you happen to be a big restaurant, fast food restaurant that has a clown as its mascot, that goes after a small burger joint with a name like McDingles or something like that.
Well, that's actually that probably would get claimed as actual infringement, but
that would actually be infringement. This is flaming stupid.
McDingles, I like that. They have sued Snoop because Snoop is now invested in his own medical marijuana company,
perfectly legal
and not surprising, called Leafs by Snoop. Now,
spelled
Leafs. Which is not a real word, and Toronto Maple Leafs, who spell it the same way, claim that the logo and the use of that word is infringing on their trademark on that spelling of the word.
Mm-hmm. So other than the fact that this proves that the Toronto hockey team and Snoop Dogg both don't know how to spell the word leaves, other than that,
they don't even look alike.
They don't look alike at all.
There's a picture of the logos in the article we'll have up in the show notes. The Toronto Maple Leafs, this should actually be read up, not mistaken. Yeah. And Snoop's is a pot leaf, kind of stylized, metallicized. They don't look anything alike.
No. What do they think? Someone's good.
I really want Snoop to take this all the way, just because it's so freaking stupid.
I am so Team Snoop on this. It's not even funny. I mean, seriously, what do they think? Somebody's going to walk into a medical marijuana thing, go, wait, I expected a hockey game.
Dingo! Or if you walk into a hockey game and expect to buy pot. Well, that might be possible in Canada. I don't know.
No.
Anyway.
Oh, they're far too nice.
Anyway, we'll be following these and bring up follow-ups as soon as we find stuff. You can find all kinds of great stories about crazy lawsuits by going over to techdirt.com and arstechnica.com, the two tech sites that I read regularly, and they are the inspiration for this new and we'll bring them to your attention and give you the links to the stories, and hopefully Mike and the guys at TechDirt will appreciate that too. Go Snoop.
Court's adjourned.
Good times and great movies. Subject Cinema.
Deja vu. What is it, and why does it occur?
Just had that little feeling. You ever get that funny little, that kind of feeling, that vuja day? Not deja vu. This is vuja day. This is the strange feeling that somehow none of this has ever happened before.
Deja Vu Review.
To cure your impotence, you want me
to implant goat testicles into you.
Well, Doc, that can't be worse than the nuts I got.
Well...
Sweet sugar honey bunny.
I doubt that very many people among us have heard of a gentleman named Dr. John Romulus Brinkley. I hadn't heard of him until the Sundance Film Festival this year, when this film was one of my picks. I just thought it sounded intriguing as all hell. It is now making its way around the country, and is the story of this interesting gentleman and his profession. And it's simply directed by Penny Lane. It is simply entitled Nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Give us the rundown.
The name Dr. John R. Brinkley is a name that I think most people nowadays, if you said, do you know who John R. Brinkley is? Most people would say, nope.
Nope.
If you asked a person in the late 1920s and early 30s, however, that question, you probably would have gotten a very different answer depending on which side of the fence people fell upon.
Yep.
According to some people, he was one of the greatest medical men since Hippocrates, and to other people, he was a charlatan of the worst order. Dr. Brinkley was a man that showed up in a small town in Kansas with his wife and set up a tiny drugstore in a town in Kansas that would charitably be referred to as a spot on the map. It would actually have to work up to being a fly speck. The issue that happens, though, is while he is in this town, according to this film, which is based on his authorized biography called The Life of a Man by Clement Wood, Dr. Brinkley came upon an amazing medical procedure that, according to him, would solve a man's, what he termed at the time, sexual weakness. I guess the best way to put that would be impotency. His procedure involved transferring a slice of a goat testicle introducing goat testicle material into a man's testicle. I am sorry to all the men out there who just went and covered up the meat and two veg. But apparently, amazingly, this procedure, according to many people, worked.
Now, of course, you got ahead of the story there. It was thought that he was implanting entire goat testicles.
Yeah.
Replacing the men's testicles, basically.
Yes. With goat testicles, because apparently goats are very virile and rabbits are too hard to catch. I don't know which. But his story, according to the narrator of this film, who is reading from The Life of a Man, the autobiography, the biography, I should say, this doctor became very famous, very wealthy, and began to branch out into entertainment. He opened a radio tower. He did all these amazing things. And because he was so, such a pioneer and such a maverick and so anti-establishment, the AMA, always looking to stomp on anybody out there who was, not part of the status quo and in lockstep with them, tried to squash this guy and call him a quack. And through about halfway through this film, you're really on his side. You really do feel like, damn, this man really went through a lot. And he had, he was according to this film so far, he's the epitome of the American dream. He's an Ayn
He's
Rand.
being wrong because he doesn't want to be heard by the establishment that knows he's got the answer.
He's an Ayn Rand pinup boy. He's this guy that's gone out there and bucked the system and done things his own way, but the system's trying to squash him and keep him down and slander his reputation. And damn it if you don't get behind him through the first and second act.
Mm-hmm.
The third act
reminds us of F for Fake from Orson Welles.
And by the end of this movie, I was like, I feel distinctly rickrolled.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you.
Never gonna give you up.
Yeah, really.
Anyway.
Nuts is... Now, for those of you who would see a film like Nuts and point and sneer and say, oh, well, that could never happen today. People are much too smart for that sort of thing today. And people are much too sophisticated and blah-blah-blah, meep moop and all that stuff like that.
You obviously haven't seen the World's Smartest Inventions specials that World's Dumbest runs every now and
Not
then.
only that, I have 3 letters for you. PTL. How many people were sending?
yeah.
How many people were sending their welfare checks and their food stamps to something that should have just stood for preachers that lie, or
supposed to have been people that love is what it was supposed to be for.
Yeah. Usually, more honestly, it stood for preachers that lie or pass the loot.
Yeah.
But Nuts is a fascinating story. I am really surprised nobody has made an actual, film of this guy, because
the thing is, the way this movie portrays him, he's this big conglomerate guy. But I want to point out something. I'm a student of radio. I've been a student of radio all my life. I have a book called The Encyclopedia of American Radio, which talks about the first 40 years of radio. He isn't even mentioned in this book.
No, but is the radio station that he started mentioned KFKP?
Nope.
No?
Not one mention of his station, of this guy, or anything. Because of the third act and what he really represented, and probably because, it's a completely different tale.
Yeah. Like I said, you really should see this movie, and if by the third act you don't feel like, what? There's a point in the third act that I think people don't take this the wrong way, people who are a little older and who are students of history will understand the next thing that I'm going to say.
Okay.
There is a point in the third act, the pivot point in the third act, where we have what is this film's version of the "Have you no decency, sir?" moment. And
it's true.
You know what I mean. You
The
know what
McCarthy
that
hearings,
yeah, you know what that means.
Yeah.
And when that moment
Only it comes on the other end.
Yeah. When that moment hits, you feel like you have been hit upside the head with a waffle iron.
Ow, that'd hurt.
You really do. Because of the brilliant way this movie is set up. When the prestige happens, for lack of a better term, or the punchline, if you take the attitude that life is one big joke, this is one pip dilly of a punchline. It really and truly is. What did you think of it?
This is a brilliant film, and I really, it's animated, and it is an absolutely...
Mostly. There are some live shots.
There are a few live shots, but it's mostly animated. Director Penny Lane does a great job of telling Dr. Brinkley's story. And I was completely sucked in. Mm-hmm. And so were you.
Totally.
As I said, the comparison to Orson Welles' 1975 film F for Fake.
The woefully underseen F for Fake.
Available from Criterion if you haven't seen it. Is appropriate, I think. Mm-hmm. We were talking about that the night we saw this film.
Yep.
it is interesting that I have to go through the book again. I didn't look up the radio stations the way I should have, but one of the stations became Mexico's giant station where Wolfman Jack had became a star.
Yeah, and got rock and roll out there for the masses to hear.
The American half of the station eventually played into another big, more stuff. But yeah, I was completely flummoxed by this, and everybody should be aware that it's going to make you, so indignant, and then suddenly drop a bomb on you. It's like getting an anvil to the head.
Yeah, it is.
And it's like, I could have had a V8 moment.
When you get to that point in the movie, you will understand what I mean about feeling rickrolled.
Never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
If you have ever been rickrolled,
never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you.
Oh yeah.
In your life, you will feel rickrolled.
Never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
Keep giving me more of that, because I can put that in every time you say it.
Why do you want to torture our audience like that? That's not very nice.
What's your score?
I gave it an A.
I gave it an A as well. Nuts is an amazing story and really well put together by director Penny Lane. It is making its way around the country slowly but surely, and this month will appear in Independence, Kansas, Hollywood, California, Santa Monica, Claremont, Seattle, Chicago, Bellingham, Washington, New Haven, Connecticut, finally making its way to Boston at the end of the month, and many, many more places over the next 2 months. If you get a chance, take a look. It will definitely entertain you for the rest of the evening, even if you do feel just a little bit sheepish at the end.
Yeah. For a movie with a name like Nuts, it's got to have a lot of balls.
Oh, I'm dying. We first reviewed Nuts back a few months ago. It was a great movie, and we hope that you like it, too.
Yeah.
It is our Deja Vu review this week because it is now streaming on Amazon Prime. If you're a Prime member, you can get it for free. If you're not, you can see it for, I think it's $6.99. And it is definitely one of the more interesting and off-the-wall documentaries you will see this year.
It is something, you have to see it to believe it. And we saw it, and I still can't believe it.
Check out Nuts. It's on Amazon Prime now, and keep an eye out. It will be making its way across other platforms in the not-too-distant future.
When it comes to everything movies, we've got it. Subject Cinema.
We normally use crowdfunders to talk about a project or a theater or something that may need some help in, a project that needs help getting off the ground that we really think is cool, like the whole Dorothy Slippers restoration, or something along the lines of theaters needing help, which we would do as part of Save Our Screens. We've never done one like this before, and it's because we've never had something like this to do, because this happens to be something that's touching us personally. A friend of ours has found out that she's going to be in for the fight of her life. You want to talk about this a little bit, please?
Okay. This week's crowdfunders, we're asking you guys to donate what you can, if you can, to a very good friend of ours. I met Kathy Underwood, who goes by Katie. I met her through us both being fans of Supernatural. Both of us being Samazons, and we met through the internet, bonded instantly, became friends. I was lucky enough to meet her face-to-face when she came up here back in August of 2011 and accompanied me to the Supernatural convention that was held in Boston. And I took her on a tour of the area, and we had a wonderful time, and we've talked a lot and laughed a lot and just been really great friends. We've collaborated together on writing and just had a lot of fun. Katie's had some rough stuff happen in her life already. She has had previous medical issues, and when she went in for an operation recently, the doctors found out that she had cancer. And Katie is currently not employed and has no insurance, so the medical bills are not going to be easy. And so she has started a GoFundMe page, and if you are so inclined, if you could go to that page and read about Katie and read about the person that she is, and if you could, spare a little coin, that would be great. If you can't, that's okay. Just send up a prayer.
If you can't, please take the time to tweet and Facebook Katie's page. But I think most of you can probably spare, maybe $1 or $2. We're going to ask you guys to really come out there. And we've been talking about our own Patreon campaign, and we'll talk more about that. But this is something that's more important. So if you're thinking about that, put it off for a couple weeks and take that money that you're going to give us and give it to Katie, because she's really going to need it. It's going to be a major issue in the weeks and months ahead.
Yep. And as TC said, if you could spread the word about her page. The address is www.gofundme.com/Kathy's line, I suppose it'd be.
Is it underscore or dash?
Dash. Kathy's cancer medical fund.
And we will have a link in the show notes for you to get over there. We can't afford much either, but we have made a donation, and we will continue to help her out whenever we can. And
Katie is a really good person. She is a kind person with a giving heart, and this means a lot to me because she is a really good friend. She, like I said, if you can't afford anything right now, money-wise,
keep in mind that it'll be ongoing.
Yeah, keep in mind it'll be ongoing. And if you could just send a prayer, a good thought, a kind vibe, that would be great too. But if you could definitely send some coin her way, we here at Subject Cinema would appreciate it. Katie, we love you, and we're in your corner.
We certainly are, Katie. Please don't hesitate to let us know if you need anything. We'll do our best to help out whenever we can. And we ask you guys, our listeners, our loyal, long-time listeners, to take a chance and help out too. Thank you.
Good times and great movies. Subject Cinema.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
I think this is one of the latest years we've ever done a Grinch Watch. We usually have to start in September or October.
We do.
Because Christmas season actually starts, this Friday, or technically Thursday at noon, with Santa Claus going down the Main Street in the Macy's parade.
Yes.
But this is ridiculous. Big Lots has started their Christmas campaign, and I don't have a problem with it if it's a week or so before Thanksgiving, if it's, okay. But really, they're taking Christmas carols, religious Christmas carols, and turning them into song jingles for products.
Yeah. Now,
I don't have a problem if they want to do it with secular music.
No, I don't either.
But you should not be doing it with religious songs like Silent Night.
Yeah, that's where we're coming from here. One of Big Lots commercials, and I've seen a truncated version where they don't use religious
versions.
They cut
it out, which I thought was really interesting.
Well, yeah, so I'm like, apparently we're not the only ones that found that annoying.
Well, they also used Hark the Herald Angels Sing in one of them,
too?
Yes,
they do. Yeah. There's an extended version of the commercial where they're singing... glory to the big box mart while they're talking about all the stuff that these people talk about, all the money they've saved shopping at this store. And they're using traditional Christmas songs, and they're using their own lyrics. 2 of the songs they use are secular songs, and 2 of the songs they use are faith-based songs. They use Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and I believe Silent Night.
Yeah, they use Silent Night and Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and the secular songs they use are Deck the Halls and Jingle Bells?
It might be Jingle Bells, yeah.
And so it's a little bit, those are a little bit more acceptable, but I don't think the religious community is really happy with them right now because they did cut them out, which I think is interesting.
Now, I realize this is not going to affect some people, and some people are going to be like, who cares? And that's your right to be like, who cares? Because you're probably not...
Godless heathens, all of you! No, sorry, just kidding.
Okay. Because you're not celebrating Christmas anyway, probably, which is fine. Nobody's, we're not knocking anybody.
We're just kidding around. We're just kidding around, guys, anyway.
We're not shaming anybody. We don't, your thing is your thing. Our thing is our thing.
Enough, honey. They get it. Next.
Right. However, that having been said, I was like, I don't want to be one of these people, I'm so offended that they did this. I was just like, dude, not cool.
Yeah. It's not so offensive as it is just irritating. It should be irritating for all of the songs because they're Christmas songs. You don't need to make jingles, sales jingles out of Christmas songs.
No.
Never mind the fact that, there are the unfortunate circumstances of, stores like The Gap making commercials with Ice Ice Baby a few years ago. That was bad enough. But, having...
Well, that was bad enough just because it was Ice Ice Baby.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
If you're one of these people that just views Christmas as a time when it should be about just friendship and giving and loving and family, and you even want to take the religious...
If you think of Christmas as your life day... Ooh, I'm getting the dirty looks right now.
Don't make me get up. Don't make me get up from this chair. If you take the religious aspect out of Christmas, which to me is ridiculous, but anyway, if you want to look at it as just a good day of bonding and stuff like that with your family, that's fine and that's great. But it shouldn't all be about commerce and money and gifts and gimme. What's in it for me? I'm sorry. No. And this is just not cool, man. It's just not cool.
So this year's first Grinch Award goes to Big Lots.
Yeah.
Or actually probably to their ad agency. I don't know who it was for putting this together.
Tacky.
It could be considered a tacky train, I suppose, too. But it's we're going to be in for tons of ridiculous Christmas ads in the next month, so be ready. The Grinch Watch will probably be back soon.
This is the place to be. You're listening to Subject Cinema with TC Kirkham and Kim Brown.
This past Monday, Fathom Events offered up a very special treat, or at least some people thought it was a very special treat. It was the first full-length airing of the new animated version of a classic Doctor Who episode, the one that introduced the first regeneration. Doctor Who, The Power of the Daleks, using the original voice tracks from the original show. They reconstructed everything with animation. And give us a brief rundown of that
okay.
episode. It's a 6-part serial or 8-part serial, and it was squished into about 2.5 hours.
6, actually. The Power of the Daleks takes place after the 10th Planet, which was the serial before it, which was when the first Doctor regenerated into the second Doctor. That's the end of the episode. And that's where we come into the Power of the Daleks. The TARDIS has landed on a planet called Vulcan. No, not that Vulcan. And the Doctor's companions at this time are a couple. Well, they're not a couple. A young man named Ben and a young woman named Polly. They find a person on the floor of the TARDIS, this unconscious man that neither of them recognize, but once he regains consciousness, they realize this is their friend, the Time Lord, the Doctor, that he has...
Well, the Time Lord wasn't known yet.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That didn't happen until Patrick Troughton evolved into John Pertwee. So.
Sorry. Before we go any further...
I'm a Whovian and she's not.
Hold on. Before we go any further, one of us is a Doctor Who fanatic. The other one is...
I'm not a fanatic. I'm a fan of the classic show. I haven't watched the new one much.
One of us is a Doctor Who scholar. The other one,
Not even close. Not even close. I have a lot of books on it. I've studied it, but I admit to being a rather good fan of the show. It took me a while, but
the other one thinks a sonic screwdriver is a type of drink. So guess who that one is? Anyway, the situation rapidly goes from what the hell to oh my god, we're screwed. Once the Doctor and his companions leave the TARDIS and start exploring the planet Vulcan. No, not that one. And the
you
Doctor...
don't need to qualify that every time you
I
say
know, but
the
it's
planet
funny.
Vulcan.
And the Doctor sees a man being murdered. Before the Doctor can do anything about it, he is knocked out, presumably by the murderer. It turns out that there is a colony on this planet, and that someone from Earth had called for an examiner to come to the planet because there are problems with rebels trying to overthrow the colony's government, which is headed by a governor. And there's also the issue with a scientist on the planet, a gentleman by the name of Hensel, who has made a discovery of...
No. Hensel's the governor. Lesterson is the
scientist.
I'm sorry.
Lesterson, who is a scientist, has found this metal on the planet that seems to be impervious to most kinds of things that would harm metal, lasers, rotting, anything like that. Also found on the planet, in the mercury swamps on the planet, is a pod made of the same metal that turns out to be inhabited. The pod is inhabited by the time dormant forms of the Daleks. One of the greatest enemies in the Doctor Who universe, the Doctor's sworn enemies, creatures that live for destruction. The thing is, these Daleks right now seem to be dormant. They're not dead, they're just dormant, switched off. I don't know how else to word it.
They're powered down.
They're powered down. Their batteries are dead. Lesterson might, like most scientists who are all like, science is the most important thing in the entire friggin' universe. Never mind what'll happen if I decide to reanimate these things. For? Science! Decides to bring the Daleks back to life. Thank you, Thomas Dolby. Because scientists bringing back things always works out better the best. Dr. Frankenstein, all that kind of stuff. That never ends in anything bad going on. Well, it actually does.
Yeah, so it goes on and on from there. We can't give you the whole plot. But,
no.
With the original cast list was Patrick Troughton in his first turn as the Doctor, Annika Wills as Polly, Michael Craze as Ben Jackson, and guest stars Bernard Archer, Peter Bathurst, Robert James, Nicholas Haltry, Pamela Ann Davey, Martin King, Edward Kelsey, Richard Kane, Stephen Scott, Peter Forbes Robertson, Robert Luckham, Robert Russell, and a few other people, plus John Scott Martin, Mr. Dalek himself, inside the Dalek, one of the Daleks. This was interesting because they found the entire... they were able to piece together the entire voice track from the original shows, which have all been missing since a big BBC purge in the early 70s. They brought in the dialogue, they cleaned it up, they got the copies from the fans, edited it back together based on the script, and then began animating it. My big problem with this, I had never seen the story, obviously I'd never heard the story either, and I happened to enjoy Patrick Troughton's take on the Doctor, and I was actually familiar with Ben and Polly from the 2 or 3 episodes of the Hartnell shows that they had done, which I had seen a few years ago when they were running them on local TV. I was really excited about this prospect. It was airing 50 years after the original show aired in 1966. Big find for this, a major find. It's a shame that the BBC, notorious for cost cutting, really did it harm by doing such a crappy animation job. The animation, you'll get used to it, and so it's not too bad. And the audience we saw it with, which was about 2/3 full, did enjoy it. They were laughing in the right parts. They were having fun with the right areas. You know, some of the stuff the Doctor did. They obviously were clearly enjoying it. But I think a lot of them were like me, that they just thought that this animation was even below Hanna-Barbera standards. And I'm like, that's really low. It's so jerky. And so I disagree with a couple of people who didn't think that the Doctor looked enough like Patrick Troughton. I thought they captured Troughton fine. I don't think they captured Michael Craze very well. He was a very good-looking guy, and they didn't really do him justice with the animation. But I gotta be honest, though, the story was exciting and thrilling and powerful, and once you got used to the jerky animation, it wasn't so bad. But I did thoroughly enjoy it, and I would do it again if we had the opportunity. And you guys, if you missed it in Fathom Events, it will be showing in theaters one more time, and it premiered this weekend as a serial over the next 6 weeks on BBC America. What did you think? You enjoyed it?
I did. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The animation style, it is a little jerky.
There are people who have called Hanna-Barbera limited animation, although I actually think limited animation is more along the lines of UPA back in the 50s.
I think limited animation, I think Filmation.
That too, and
know.
it's not that good either.
I found the story to be really compelling. You know,
you were freaking out. Tell them why you were freaking out. This is 1966 when this originally aired. In Great Britain, it aired in a Saturday afternoon time slot.
Yes.
For kids.
This is a children's show. Holy crap! You know, I'm sorry, and I am not a prude. By any stretch of the imagination, I'm not. And
I can vouch for that. That was a compliment, dear.
Thank you. I would like to think that if I had a child, that my child would grow up on a steady diet of kaiju movies, Hammer horror, and all the stuff like I did. And look at the well-adjusted adult I turned out to be.
Well, I didn't grow up on any of those. And look at the well-adjusted... Oh, yeah, that's not a good idea either. Anyway.
But I'm sorry. This is a children's show? Holy
especially the last two episodes.
The last two episodes, people are getting machine gunned to death left and right. I mean, there's no blood. I mean...
The BBC probably didn't want to actually pay for the blood.
Probably not. I mean...
God knows they didn't want to pay for actual animation either.
I mean, I can't see them shelling out the money for squibs, but I mean, this stuff was like the last 10 minutes of Scarface. I mean, holy crap. You know, it's if they had put the blood in it, it would have been. But I was just like...
Say hello to my little friend.
I was like, oh, that was really good. I have to be honest, what scared me... I mean, and this scared me. This actually did scare me. I actually did scream like a little girl and grabbed his hand, and I was like, hold me. There's a scene in the Dalek pod where one of the Daleks is not in its pepper pie.
This is before they discover there's a whole bunch more there.
Yeah. We find out how Daleks get made. And
at least until Genesis of the Daleks, the Tom Baker story, which kind of rewrote part of this
and it's not a case of when the mommy Dalek and the daddy Dalek love each other very much. It's not that kind of a story.
No, it's not.
But one of these things scuttles under a door, and this is animated, and it's still... I screamed like a girl.
You weren't the only one. A couple of other people in the audience let out a pretty loud gasp, too.
I was like, oh my God, hold me. What was that? And he's like, that's what's inside a Dalek. I'm like, hold me. Because if you don't know, and I found this out, you know, from... I mean, my Doctor Who knowledge is very piecemeal, and I admit it.
It's grown considerably since we got together. We used to watch it every week when it was on New Hampshire.
Yeah. The thing that you see on the outside of a Dalek, the thing that's moving around with the eye stalk thing and the plunger, it's a plunger.
It's a plunger.
that's a casing. The actual inside of the Dalek is the actual living thing.
It's not a computer. It has organic material in it. Yeah.
It looks like somebody puked in a bucket. You know, that's basically, if you think about the idea that the outside of the Dalek is the bucket and the puke inside of it is the brain.
You do realize Anthony is laughing so hard he's rolling on the floor right now.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Anthony is a huge Whovian.
It's what it looks like. It looks like a bucket full of sick. I'm sorry. If I've offended any Daleks out there, I apologize. You know, but you are some ugly mother beep. The story is really good.
The story is great. The writing was terrific.
Although
the animation do have
to, there is the jaw-droppingly. Okay, you can almost sit there and set your clock by it. The whole thing is the Daleks come off like, oh, we want to help you, we're your servants, we'll do what you want. And the Doctor's trying to explain to these people on this colony, no!
He's dealt with them before in his previous persona.
And I'm just sitting there like, okay, can we just start the clock now on how much long? Because the really crazy thing is you can actually, and I love this about the voice acting done by whomever does the voices for the Daleks. Considering the fact that they are very monotone, they go from they have Daleks have two voice speeds: monotone and shrieking. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between.
Peter Hawkins did it for this episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have monotone and they have shrieking, and there's nothing in between. The whole thing where the Dalek keeps having to repeat that I am your servant. And as it keeps having to do that, you can hear the teeth gritting.
Such as it is.
Yeah. I'm like, how can it be gritting its teeth when it doesn't have any teeth? That's really amazing. You know, that's a real skill. But it keeps... You can hear it with each time it says it. And you can just sit here and it's like waiting for a volcano to erupt. You're just going, oh man, when this happens, it's going to be so bad. And when it does happen... It is that bad. I think this is exciting. I think if you're a Doctor Who fan, you should definitely check it out.
Be aware that the animation is not going to be for everybody, and a lot of the fans that commented on Deadline's review of it were really negative toward the animation.
Yeah.
I got used to it after a while. I was more interested in the story.
Me too.
I'm a sucker for good Doctor stories, especially with the Daleks, because I think they're one of the best creatures in science fiction history. And Patrick Troughton was terrific, and the rest of the cast was great, and the voice cast was fantastic, and it made it draw in, even though we had to put up. Although one would argue that the limited animation was probably better than the actual production values at that time, which was very cheap because they operated on the cheap.
Also,
not as cheap as the Tomorrow People would later do, but still. Anyway,
my other one quibble is more on a personal level, and I realize when I bring it up, he's gonna roll his eyes and be like, "Oh crap, here she goes." Polly. Now, Polly seems like a very nice girl. She's obviously quite smart, and she definitely has a very trusting heart because she believes from the get-go that this rather weird person is the Doctor, even though he looks nothing like the Doctor they knew 10 minutes ago.
Right.
She can just sense that he is the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Ben is not so trusting.
He came around.
He came around, but it took a while. My whole thing is, of course, Polly has to be the damsel in distress and get dragged off and get kidnapped and all this. I'm like, I'm just sitting there like,
Well,
women can
at
take
one
care
point,
of...
Ben got kidnapped too. They just never showed it.
No, I just kind of was like, I realized this was the 60s and, things were different back then, but could we have a person, could we have a companion who happens to be female, who doesn't do anything but just stand there and scream? We
had companions on this show that were like that, especially later on. You had people like Leela and Liz Shaw and Sarah Jane Smith that always were doing what they were doing first and were frightened only if they had to be.
Right.
Okay.
I was just kind of like, oh crap, here we go again with the whole female in distress thing. I was just that irritated me, but that's only because,
Did you rate it?
Yes, I did actually. I gave it a B+.
I would too. I think I'd give it a B. Because I think the animation could have been better, but I really love the project, and I hope that we'll see more of these episodes that the BBC had inadvertently lost to time. Several episodes from earlier serials that were missing 1 or 2 episodes have been recreated with animation, and this is the first one they've done a full serial on. I hope they do some more in the future. I want the BBC, however, to spend a little more on better animation next time. You can catch Power of the Daleks at Fathom Events one more time. Check fathomevents.com for date and time, and it will be running the next 6 weeks as half-hour serial episodes of Doctor Who on BBC America.
Plug Central.
This is the part of the show where we talk about us. And right now we just got one thing to talk about, and that is our Patreon campaign. Our Patreon campaign is ongoing. We have some great perks available for those of you who would take the time to donate at least $2 a month to us. And when you do so, you'll get some great perks involved with it. We are going to have some Patreon exclusive items coming up in December. We've got an interview with somebody, part of the family, but it's only going to be there. We're going to have some bloopers that are coming available only on the Patreon feed. What it takes to go through some of the things we have to endure when we're recording. And one thing happened last week when we were recording Front Row 5 and 10. We were both in hysterics. And you just can't help it.
Aggravated hysterics.
Aggravated hysterics. And that'll be popping up shortly. Only on the Patreon feed. You're going to be missing a lot of stuff if you don't. Now, don't forget, all of our shows remain free. They will always be a part of the free feeds, and you can always check them out. But we got some great stuff for those of you willing to come over. So please come over, donate on our Patreon website, and we got another great perk coming from Eric Lyon later on. And we'll be talking about that in December. So please come over and donate. Patreon.com/PNRNetworks. We need it really bad right now because our computer's about had it. And we need a new mixing board really bad because our computer, for some reason, will not give us feedback capability. We can't listen to ourselves when we're recording the show, and we can't use our Skype feed. So we haven't been able to do any interviews and stuff since we got this computer about 2 years ago. And we really, really need help getting a new mixing board, a new computer, and some new programs. And then above and beyond that, we want to use all of the funds. Our goal is to make enough to get out for one of us to leave work and work on this stuff full time eventually. It doesn't have to happen right away, but believe me, the sooner that you can make that happen, the less crazy I will be overall.
That's true.
But we got some all kinds of cool plans, including a new video project. If we can get it off the ground, we hope to get it up and running by March or so, starring our very lovely co-host, Kimberly Brown. And a lot of other stuff, and that'll be coming soon. But only if you guys can help us out by joining our Patreon campaign. And who doesn't want to get mentioned on the air? Who doesn't want to be known as giving the second oldest film podcast on the planet a little bit of love? We'd appreciate it. Don't forget to check out all of our programming. I was informed today by Eric Lyon. They have not done a new Cavebabble for a month. They've been having some problems, like Anthony's been having. Their time schedules have been all screwed up because of stuff going on with their jobs. He does hope to get a new show up either this weekend or next weekend. So hopefully they'll be doing that shortly. But in the meantime, there's over a ton of Cavebabble back episodes that you can check out, and they're always fun, especially the travelogue shows at Cavebabble.com. Plus, you can check out our spin-offs, Front Row 5 and 10, every Wednesday night with a crazy list that we do with Kim and I. 3 Minute Weekend every Friday. Tuesday Digidex every Tuesday with the latest new releases. Fridays in the theaters and Tuesdays on video. And Platinum Rose's Garden from Kim.
Yes.
All things supernatural, Winchester, and all that stuff. What was it? What do you think, babe?
Well, this week's episode of Platinum Rose's Garden, I am talking about some good news for the supernatural community, some nice news we got this week, a few other things, and we are looking at the supernatural episode from this week with a review of Celebrating the Life of Asa Fox. I hope you guys will come check it out over at PlatinumRosesGarden.com.
We got all kinds of stuff going on the websites as well. eCinemaOne with great stuff every day. We're going to have that's the place to come for our awards coverage. We have all the nominees listed when we can get them. People's Choice Awards came out this last week. We didn't really go over them here, but we probably should have. We have all kinds of film festival news coming as we get closer and closer to the end of the year, as we try desperately in the next 40 days to catch up with movies for the Poppies and Rosies coming up on New Year's Eve. And we hope you'll keep an eye on that. Our calendar for our year-end stuff will be up in early December. Also, don't forget to check out our other sites. Although they're not always as busy as we'd like them to be, we have eCinemaBoston, which will be back in the next 10 days. I'm almost finished with it. I actually hope to premiere it on Thanksgiving. We will have new stuff coming on Planet BiblioMusica. I have got stuff from our vacation I still haven't posted, and I need to do that. The Kirkham Report returns shortly. And don't forget, we're also going to have a brand new podcast coming in January called Real Rewind. Those of you who have listened to this show for a while know we used to have a segment called Real Rewind with box office scores and stuff. Not going to be like that. This is a historical movie show. It'll be up 3 times a week, and we hope that you'll come listen to it. When it comes up, it will be on what used to be the Mirrorball Mayhem feed. So please keep an eye on that, and we'll have notice when it gets up. Mm-hmm. Don't forget to take the time to write to us. And you can write to us at subjectcinema@PNRNetworks.com. If you've got an idea for a list for Front Row 5 and 10, send it to frontrow@PNRNetworks.com. And follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm eCinemaOne and eCinemaBoston TC. Kim is Platinum Roselle.
Yep.
Eric is Cavebabble. Anthony is, I'm not sure what Anthony is. Follow us and retweet us and re-Facebook us. And one more time, what were you going to say?
I also, just to plug my own stuff, if you'd like to check out some of my writings over on fanfiction.net, I am over there. Look me up in the search under the authors, under Platinum Rose Lady. And some of my stuff is also available on archiveofourown.com, I think is what it is, or .net, I'm not sure. You can look up my stuff over there as well.
You can follow my film reviews on Letterboxd too, and we hope that you'll connect with us on all the sites we're on. I'm on Letterboxd, Pinterest, and a number of other places. Plus, you can subscribe and listen to the show on so many places. You don't have to listen to it on our site or the basic RSS feed. You can hear Subject Cinema and Front Row 5 and 10, at least, on practically everything, including iHeartRadio now, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, of course, and everywhere else. And we urge you to leave comments for us over there on those sites when you do listen to it, so we can get more people interested in listening. And we thank all of those who've listened the last couple of weeks and have left us likes and stuff. SoundCloud is really making a difference, and so is YouTube, where we have also been posting all the new shows. All you get is a picture of the logo, but you can listen to the whole show over on YouTube. And we're going to have more interesting stuff as December comes along, or we head toward the beginning of the year. We hope to be making a bunch more of announcements, and we hope that you will be a part of that. And that's going to do it for Plug Central this week.
He has so much courage, and he just explode onto the screen.
Toshiro was adept at karate and swordsmanship. He got into fights frequently, usually defending his younger brother.
もっとなんか股を開いてなんか歯を食いしばれみたいなこと言われて。
He was, for many, many years, one of Japan's biggest box office stars, starting in smaller roles in certain films and gradually working himself up to a recognizable superstar. Here in America, he's revered for all of the films he did with Akira Kurosawa, mostly, but also other stuff. We recently had the chance to check out a new documentary about the man, and we are about to tell you about it. Give us the rundown on Mifune, The Last Samurai.
Mifune, The Last Samurai is a documentary about one of the greatest actors Japan ever produced. And actually, he wasn't originally from Japan, really. He was from China. He was born in...
he was a Japanese China. He was a immigrant to China from Japan, his family.
And I actually would say that he was one of the best actors that the planet ever produced. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's being, facetious.
No.
Toshiro Mifune is best known in this country for his work in Akira Kurosawa's classic, The Seven Samurai. Those who don't know him from that probably know him from Kurosawa's Yojimbo, or possibly Kurosawa's Rashomon. You see a pattern forming here?
And he's also done some Western films, including 1941 and Grand Prix.
That's correct.
Learning all of them phonetically.
Yes, learning his lines phonetically, which unfortunately did limit the amount of work that he did on American shores, which is a real shame, since I think if more people had seen his work, mm-hmm. I think he would have been an even bigger and more revered star. Mm-hmm. Mifune, The Last Samurai, looks at his life, his marriage, his time, it looks at Mifune, the actor, Mifune, the husband, Mifune, the father. But it always boils back down to and comes back down to Mifune, the actor. He was an actor before he was...
specifics, Mifune, the actor for Akira Kurosawa.
That's true.
For which he made 13 films and a lot of notoriety in Japan.
That is true as well. Narrated by Keanu Reeves.
Supposedly.
Well,
it doesn't sound like him. I got to be honest, it does not sound like... It sounds like Maurice LaMarche to me. It doesn't sound like Keanu Reeves.
This documentary goes into detail about Mifune's acting career and him as a person through interviews with co-stars, with friends, with his son, with Americans that worked with him, including Steven Spielberg, who directed him in 1941, and also Martin Scorsese. Unfortunately, we don't have any actual interviews with Mifune himself, archival interviews or anything like that, which for me kind of takes away from the film a little bit. I would have thought that somewhere would have been somebody that had interviewed this man, but apparently not.
Or not that they could get the rights to.
No. Mifune, as an actor, was one of those people that once you saw him on screen, your eyes were drawn to him throughout the entire scene. Even if he's not the focal point of the scene, mm-hmm. you always are watching him because you're thinking, what is he going to do next? When you see a film like The Seven Samurai, where his character is this complete whack job that wants to
he's
be...
He's the young gun in the original Japanese film.
He's the loose cannon.
Yeah.
He is not an actual samurai, but wants to be one desperately, and joins up with this small group of samurai to defend this village against bandits. He is completely unpredictable, raunchy body, doesn't have the samurai dignity, but has the samurai heart, mm-hmm. if that makes any sense.
It does.
You see his work in a film like Yojimbo, which is one of my favorite films of all time, always on my Pantheon list.
Yeah.
The film that if Kurosawa had never made Yojimbo, we would have never gotten The Man with No Name, because Sergio Leone's The Man with No Name trilogy, which made Clint Eastwood an international superstar, owes a lot to Kurosawa and a lot to Mifune. Mm-hmm. His character in Yojimbo is actually in my opinion, a lot more likable than The Man with No Name. If you look at his work, now you look at his work in other films, the costume dramas that he was so famous for, The Hidden Fortress, Throne of Blood, these are all these powerful samurai dramas, which he did, flawlessly. Mm-hmm. But you look at him doing a modern work like The Bad Sleep Well, which was set modern time Japan and was their take on Shakespeare's Hamlet. He's still this magnetic personality, and you cannot stop watching him. As we mentioned, he did do some films in English where he had to learn his part phonetically, 1941 and Grand Prix being the biggest examples. I think that Mifune, The Last Samurai, it's a really great portrait of a very complex person. It's well put together. Like I said, I would have liked it better if there had been an interview, at least one interview with the man himself from archival footage. I thought it was fascinating and really something that Mifune fans should see. What about you?
It's an excellent portrait of the man. I've been a fan of his for years, just because he's one of the best, as you said, he's one of the best actors on the planet. It doesn't matter whether you see him and you have to read the subtitles. You can see it in his text, in his face, the text that you're reading become alive in his face, his actions, and you don't have to worry about that. And not all actors have that ability. If you didn't have subtitles, you'd probably still be able to figure out what was going on by his movements.
Yeah.
In something like Yojimbo. And Yojimbo, you're right, one of the greatest films of all time. Not on my Pantheon favorites, but definitely on my technical and classic favorites. It is a really intimate portrait, like we found out during production of one particular movie. Rather than go off to lunch with the rest of the cast and crew, he and another cast member would sneak up to his dressing room and sit there and play blackjack during their lunch hour. It's just a way to get away from the acting part of it. And he has an amazing presence. We hear from his son, Kurosawa's son, and a number of other people. I'm not sure what Martin Scorsese did with him or talked to him about. He did work with Spielberg. I don't know that he actually worked with Martin. And, of course, the idea that was planted in the seed here that we talked about between the two of us, he was George Lucas's original choice for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
And he turned it down. He had his agent turn it down. He didn't want to get stuck in it.
His American agent said no.
Yeah.
You really have to wonder if he had said yes, how that would have changed the Star Wars universe completely.
I think it's bad that even when he took the time to learn his lines, they dubbed him every time.
I know.
So it must have been very difficult to understand.
I don't know if did they dub him in Shogun, or did he speak Japanese in Shogun?
He spoke mostly Japanese in Shogun, which was one of his only big American productions of the 80s and his only TV thing here in America. It's a fascinating film. The big problem I have, number one, you're right, there's no actual interviews with him. I don't know whether they exist or not. If they did, I wish they'd been able to get them. It bothers me also that the narration on the film does not sound like who it is. It's Keanu Reeves, and it doesn't sound like him at all. I was like, is Maurice LaMarche doing... I mean, it sounds like Maurice LaMarche doing his Orson Welles as the brain. I didn't know Keanu Reeves sounded like that. But it's other than that, and it being kind of distracting, it's an excellent, if not completely inclusive, look at a very private and very talented actor from Japan. What's your score?
I give it an A-.
I give it a B. I think it definitely has potential, and if you're a fan, you're going to like it. Mifune, The Last Samurai, opens in New York and Los Angeles on November 25th and spreads throughout the U.S. in December.
The Last Reel.
Oh, this is an interesting little story to go out on this week, and very fun and heartwarming. Even the boss has trouble now and then.
Yeah. Bruce Springsteen was riding his motorcycle last week, and Unfortunately, I mean, even the boss's motorcycle can't be perfect. It broke down on the side of the road, and
he stood there going, "I'm the boss. Start."
No, he
not
didn't
really.
do that. And it turned out that he was given a hand by a group of veterans. Stop that! From New Jersey. Some gentlemen who were members of the Freehold American Legion of Bikers were riding along after an event on Veterans Day on Friday, and they saw a guy standing by the side of the road near Allaire State Park in Wall Township, New Jersey. The gentleman that they spoke to for this article that I'm reading this from, his name is Dan Barkalow. It was quoted as saying, "Bikers got to stick together. I stopped to see if he needed help, and it was Bruce." End quote. They tried to get the bike running, but they couldn't. And so they gave Mr. Springsteen a ride on the back of one of their bikes, and they went down to a local bar. They went to the bar, they waited around for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and then his ride showed up. They said that he was a real nice guy. That
Had a couple of beers with him.
They talked about motorcycles and his time in Freehold, New Jersey, which is where he grew up. And they just said that, he was just a guy on the side of the road, they were trying to help him out,
Lovely good Samaritans everywhere.
One of the other men said, quote, "It was nice to help out one Freehold person helping out another," end quote. I'm sorry, that's just beyond cool.
It is cool.
It's obviously a great thing when people help each other out when they're in trouble, because it's the decent thing to do. And for the most part, most bikers, bikers get a bad reputation lots of times from the media, and from movies and stuff like that.
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy really didn't help.
But you know what it just proves?
Hot Charlie Hunnam or not, but
You know what this whole thing just proves?
What?
Springsteen's bike, it just wasn't born to run.
You've been waiting since last week to do that joke, haven't you?
And that's the last reel. I think it's time to mosey on out of here after lots of stuff. We hope you'll come back in the near future. And next week, we hope to have a number of reviews for you, including a film we were going to try and squeeze in this week, and we didn't get a chance to. We will get it in for you next week. It's a great new, I assume it's a great new movie that's gotten rave reviews from what I've read. It's Luke Treadaway and the true life story of a street cat named Bob, and we'll have a few other things going on too. Plus, as we get closer and closer to the end of the year, you should definitely stay tuned to eCinemaOne.com. We're going to have a ton of stuff up there, including awards, nominations, news, Sundance, Slam Dance, Santa Barbara, Palm Springs lineups coming in the next few weeks. We've got all kinds of stuff going on every day, daily trailers. I've been doing, if you subscribe on Twitter, you've probably been getting a bunch of Spotify like Song of the Day stuff from me, just what I happen to be listening to on the train on the way to work. Some great stuff there too. I hope you've been listening. And we'll have, as usual, all of our regular features. Hopefully, we will have Anthony back next week. He's still working on that problem that he's had, and can't wait to hear what he's got to say and got up his sleeve. Mm-hmm. What are you doing this week?
I don't know, really. Just preparing for Thanksgiving and hiding on Black Friday.
Yes.
If possible.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving, which is this week, if you're listening day and date, we hope you all have a wonderful day. We hope you all will enjoy the official arrival of the holiday season with Santa Claus's arrival at Macy's on Thursday morning. And we hope you will all stay safe and have a good, wonderful holiday weekend. Don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. Be on the lookout if there's anything going on, because I know the feds are worried about everything, but they worry every holiday, so you never know what's going on. And we definitely give our thanks to you for being listeners and readers. Thank you for being there and for being with us for 11 great years and hopefully many, many, many more. Right?
Right.
And on that note...
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits. Whenever my life gets me so down, I know I can go down.
For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom. Would you stop with the turkey impressions, please?
Have a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2016 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.